This is the third time in this section of the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus uses this formula. You have heard it said, but I say. Jesus is showing his followers what it looks like to live as a citizen of his kingdom. To live as people in whom the Spirit is doing what hardened hearts can't do. What follows then is another revelation of what life actually looks like in Jesus' kingdom. Jesus says this, "It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, causes her to commit adultery, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery." Now, if you've got another translation in front of you, if you've got the English Standard Version or the New American Standard, I actually tripped up in there because I'm used to hearing it one way, and I didn't read it the way that it was on the screen that you see. See, what you might read in some of those other translations, some of the more literal translation, is that you cause her to commit adultery as if the burden lies on her in some way. But that's not what Jesus is saying. The NIV gets this right. She is the victim of adultery. The difference between victim and agent is at the heart of everything that Jesus is doing in this passage. See, in Jesus' framework, that one flesh union that we talked about, it creates in marriage, it's simply dissolved by, it isn't simply dissolved by a legal certificate. The certificate it's a civil instrument. It provides some legal protections for the woman. But Jesus is saying that the certificate doesn't simply undo what God has already done. It doesn't undo what God joined together. When a man dismisses his wife unjustly, that covenant bond persists in some way because it was never legitimately dissolved. It was simply abandoned. That's where the imagery of adultery comes into what Jesus is saying. And this abandonment sets off a chain of consequences that a husband is entirely responsible for. He's forced her into a situation where remarriage is not a choice, but a matter of survival. Amy Jill Levine is reading this as a Jewish New Testament scholar, and she makes this point very sharply. She says that Jesus isn't condemning the divorced woman. He's indicting the husband and the system that put her in that impossible position. Jesus makes the moral weight that the culture placed on her, he takes that and he puts it back where it belongs, on the one who set the chain of events in motion in the first place.